Hi, I'm Lacey Moen, and you're listening to Awaken Nation with Brad Solis.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Solis, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things. Welcome to Awakened Nation.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a great guest on today, Lacey Moen, all the way from Coeur, Idaho. What's up?
Hi, Brad. How are you?
Very good. You have an extraordinary story. Any woman who has been through, tough times, struggling, dealing with things, and then deciding
Life
one day to turn...
life.
Yeah, life.
Life. I dealt with life, Brad, like everybody else. I just, did it with a smile.
There you go. And I just decided one day to stand up and say, you know what? I'm going to change. She's incredibly successful. And I mean, what can I say about Lacey Moen? She's Italian, Irish, ginger Viking.
Yes.
She's an entrepreneurial force living up there in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. She is the owner of Earthly Beauty Bar. It's amazing the work you do. We're going to talk about it. We're going to put some graphics up as well. You are a lover of style and trends, and you love that town you live in.
I do.
And you're also an Amazon best-selling author. So please welcome to the show, Lacey Moen.
That's a lot to live up to, that intro.
I simplified it. You ran for what, city council last year? Everything.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I know.
So
let's start with your story, and we're going to talk about Star Trek as well.
You said, it's funny because you said owner of Earthly Beauty Bar, and one of my favorite things is, I'm actually the president of Lacey's Starship Enterprise.
Yeah.
That's my LLC. So I feel like, I always wanted to be able to write a check saying that,
if you're into Star Trek, you're into Star Trek. Nobody gets us. And we're not like Star Wars fans. Now, I'm one of those weird people. I like Star Wars, but to me, Star Trek is reality. This is the human race 300 years from now. So we're going to talk a little bit about all this.
Okay.
So let's dig in. So you're an entrepreneur, but it wasn't always that way. Do you want to start at the beginning? When was the moment that you said, I have to change my life?
I mean, I feel like I do that every day. I'm not going to lie. You have those come to Jesus moments every day, but I say change my life. Business. Okay, we'll talk business. So when I got divorced now 10 years ago, was it 10 years ago? See, I'm going to age myself now. Back in the day, when I got divorced 10 years ago, I had to make a choice on what I wanted to do. Did I want to go work for somebody else? Did I want to jump and go work for myself? And, I made a decision in blindness and nativity.
Naivete?
I was naive. But, I made the jump to be my own boss. And I definitely think that it was a God thing and a timing thing. And so as soon as my divorce was final, I started Earthly Beauty Bar downtown Coeur d'Alene.
Nice. Now, we don't have to go into details, but you really got out of a tough relationship. And for any woman who's listening, you are an inspiration. I mean, you just stood up one day and you said, this is it. And you have a daughter as well. So
who's, by the way, Brad, she's almost 11.
Wow.
So she's starting junior high this year, which I don't understand how that's possible because I just gave birth.
That's what it seems like.
I don't understand. But no, I think that being in a marriage, I think the worst thing than being in a bad relationship is being in a bad relationship for one more day. And I think that you have to make a choice. And I think that your life is your fault. We all control our actions and our reactions. And I hit a point where I didn't want to blame anybody anymore. I wanted to, make a change. And I didn't want my daughter to think that that was the way that relationships were or that marriage was, or, I was raised by very amazing, I come from a very matriarchal family.
Right.
We are very strong women. And I think that's just been ingrained in me from birth. And you hit a point where you just want to, see how far you can fly. And I hate regret. So I would rather fail about 1,000,000 times than ever say shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah. That's the one thing you and I have in common, because we've sat down and talked a couple of times.
Oh yeah.
And, I hate regret. The one thing my grandfather taught me was you tell people that you love them now. Don't ever sit there and they're gone and you say, "Oh, I should have said I love them." You let people know. Yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
and one thing for me is I'm a hugger, and everyone knows me like that. Like I am a hugger. I am like a grab you, pull you in, because the last memory I want to have of anybody is a hug.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, I feel like you and I are very similar in the fact that like everybody knows how I feel in that moment, because again, we're not guaranteed you're going to get another shot.
That is so true. And I don't understand, there are some people I do get, like, people don't want to, it's a boundary issue. They don't like hugging. But I remember years ago,
We need them. It's like scientific.
Yeah. And I had a good friend of mine, like 5 or 7 of my friends got together and I hugged every one of them exactly the same way. And then one of my friends got back to me like a month or two later, and he basically said, "Hey, my wife doesn't like when you hug her because she feels like you're making a pass at her." And I'm like, I hug men and women exactly the same. There's no energy behind it. There's no creepiness behind it, but I respect her boundaries. And from that moment on, I never hugged her. Well, 20 years later, the two of them are in Las Vegas, and first thing she does is hugs me. So that was her thing,
Yeah.
But I totally respect, when
Do you
people
know how hard it's
they
been?
freak. What's
Do you
that?
know how hard it's been during like this whole like COVID-19 and everything that's going on? Like I have to, when I run into people, you know what I mean, in the store or something, like my
Yeah.
instant reaction is to like go up and hug, and I have to like stop myself and like be like, hey, and your elbow or your like fist or your like anything like that, and it's awkward. But I feel like this really showed us a lot of things, and I know that I value human connection. I think that that's something that, it's a reason why I went into this field. I'm in a business that you cannot virtually do.
No,
like,
you can't.
There's nothing about this that makes it to where I can work from home.
Right.
Right. So we're one of the only, like, I can't do like a telecall with you and like diagnose your face or show your brows or do something like that.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that like I went into a field because I wanted to be able to like touch and feel and love on. And so
You're a people person. That's really what it is.
in my soul. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's very interesting. For those of you who don't know, Lacey owns Earthly Beauty Bar, as we said up in the beginning of the show. But if you follow her on Instagram, you have Lace of Face is your brand. And it's hysterical because you will take somebody pre-makeup. And if you don't know what Lacey does, she performs magic on eyebrows and makeovers and does the whole face. I mean, I've seen your before and after pictures on Instagram, and it's like I'm watching magic, literally.
I guess to me, I just feel like makeup it's kind of all science. You know what I mean? Like I think that our whole goal is like it's all about symmetry and it's all about that kind of stuff. And I think that I can see a brow before it's actually there, and I like to be able to create it. And I'm just really grateful that people want to pay me money. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, I'm just really grateful that people think that I'm good at something and want me to keep doing it, because there's always somebody out there that's better,
Yeah, but talk about this. You have celebrities that will fly in from California for the day with their wedding party to get their makeup done, and then they fly back and their wedding's the next day. This is a lot of work.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I definitely have some very high-end clientele, and I have been a part of some wonderful weddings that were, top shelf to say the least. But I feel like you know me, Brad, like nobody's better than anybody else, So when it comes to like the clients in my life and stuff like that, like whoever's in my chair is the most important person in my life at that point.
Right.
It doesn't matter anything about you. And I think that one thing that people like about me is I don't bullshit. So I'm definitely the girl that's gonna, be real with you. And I think that we live in a world of yes. And I think it's rare to have somebody that's just honest. And, I feel like, honestly, Brad, if you were to take my job and put it into like a little capsule, like I'm a therapist more than I am an artist.
Well, I've seen the before and after photos, and the women who come in to get work done by you, they look like a housefrau, and then all of a sudden they're transformed into this princess, this goddess,
So
and I'm blown
yeah.
away by that.
Well, thank you. I think that, to me, they're beautiful before. And I think that this is just part of like, I think makeup needs to go with whatever you're doing. It's part of like a uniform, Like I wouldn't do bridal makeup on somebody who's just wearing sweats. I think it
Right.
all goes with what they're doing. And a lot of these women, we value capturing moments. So many of the times that I get to do picture or get to do makeup is for someone's engagement photos and
Right.
someone's wedding or someone's senior photos or prom, or so like everything I do is for an event where you're
Right.
going to get dressed up and you get to do stuff like that. But like these girls that walk in, like the before, they look like, like me before without makeup on, what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I look like I'm 12.
Right.
I have no brows and I have no eyes and I'm just like, I'm featureless. And then, smoke and mirrors and, all of the fake contour and building yourself cheeks and all that. And then you come out and you're like glam. And, I just think that it's fun and it's dress up and it's just, it's something that makes me feel good. And I like when somebody feels beautiful. And I think just showing them how, we live in a world where we compare ourselves to everyone online. And I think so many of us do this thing where we think, I couldn't look like that, or she's this. And I just have to say, like, she didn't wake up like that.
No.
That's not, she didn't. And then you kind of get to a point to where you can show them their potential and, it's fun. And then they get to put their picture on the wall and feel like that was the most beautiful. They felt beautiful on that day. And they felt that it looked like them, what they wanted. And
That's amazing.
It's a lot of work though. I'm not going to lie. Just trying to get to the place of what I see versus what they want to. You have to mesh the two. I think more than anything, I do a lot of consultating before to get on the same page.
How do you want to look? Yeah. You put in 12-hour days. Easily.
Almost 7 days a week.
That's incredible. And you really, ladies and gentlemen, you need to go on.
And I don't do drugs. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, I think that God just made me, like, able to be sleep deprived.
Well, you're a redhead, and redheads have magical powers. And
I guess, a lot of caffeine. I started right now, Brad, it's 7:30, and I started my day at, I got here about 8:45 this morning, and that was like, I rolled into like my first client.
Wow. Well, you're the hardest working woman in show business. I really have to say that. And you're always changing your look, which is also, you live your brand. But it's extraordinary.
I get bored.
What's that?
I just get bored.
You get bored. Yeah,
that's it.
You're like me. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that you have built this brand where women go to your studio to really be transformed. And how many employees do you have now?
Right, we're after COVID. I want to say, I think right now I have 7.
But before COVID, you had like 11, right?
No, I think we had like 10. It's that transition that happens where everybody's trying to figure out their like place. And I have a few girls that I'm hiring right now too. So I think I always have an average of like 8 to 10.
That's awesome. Well, you've built this extraordinary business. You are a true entrepreneur, and I love how passionate you are, but a lot of people don't know this about you as they're listening. You're hustling, creating this business, working hard, but you're also raising a daughter now who I cannot believe Zoe is going to be she's in junior high, right?
Yeah, as of September, she'll start 6th grade. I don't get it. No, and she's amazing. Amazing.
She is. The first time I met this little munchkin, this curly redheaded little munchkin, she's on an iPad, and without missing a beat, she's like, "Hi, Brad, pleased to meet you." And she goes right back to on her iPad. She's in the back of the car, and I'm just like cracking up. I'm like, she's like a little Einstein.
She's way smarter. I have to tell you, she's way smarter than I ever was. You know, she's definitely that kid that she got brains, and she's wonderful. But I also am a different kind of mom. You know, I am
Yeah.
really real with her, and I've always talked to her like she is not my equal, but like she's an adult with me, you know, like it's never like the conversation flows back and forth, and I have a
Right.
very high standard of what I will accept.
Well, this is something, and people can research this, but only children are very high achievers. And part of the reason they say starts in childhood because the parents usually treat them like an adult. I was an only child.
Yeah.
And so my parents never got on the floor to play with me. You know, we didn't play blocks and all this, but my parents, I had to come up to their world. You know, when you're a child, there's always that moment where you're playing and you're into play, and then you see feet in your zone and you look up and there's your parent and one of them, you know, or both of them. And I started to realize that doesn't happen with an only child. With an only child, you're always interacting with adults, even at home. I didn't have play dates, you know, because I'm a little bit older, but I don't think anybody really came to the house till I was about 12 years old.
Right.
You know, I had my friends at school and that was about it, but we're expected to be little adults from day one. And Zoe is having adult conversations with mom. And this is a wonderful relationship you have with your daughter. I admire it because you aren't pussyfooting around, as they say. You're giving her the real deal. You tell her what it's all about and what it's.
I think during COVID was really eye-opening to me because yes, she's an only child, and yes, she's very self-sufficient. But I definitely realized that I had started to raise a daughter who was not necessarily entitled and not privileged, but definitely, you know, the mine, that's mine, came out of her mouth a lot. And I said things like, I'm sorry, nothing you have is yours. Everything's mine. I'm just letting you play with these things. So I think that there were some reality checks of she knows how hard I work, but she got 2 months home with me. And she was, if anything, this quarantine gave me an amazing 2 months with my daughter. And it was just really good and eye-opening. It was a wonderful experience with her. And she's incredible. I mean, she reads a book in 3-4 days. You know,
Yeah.
she's just really, really cool. But at the same time, she's still a child. And I just try to kind of remind her. I mean, I guess I'm the mom that says things like, if the words "I'm bored" come out of her mouth, I'm definitely the one that's like, here's a broom.
Yeah.
You know, like it's amazing because she's watched me work so hard.
And that's the way it should be. I mean, we lost touch with parenting back in the 70s and 80s where we listened to all the great parenting books, Dr. Spock and Carl Rogers, and they all said, you can't do this to your children, you can't do that. And it's like, so when are they going to toughen up and when are they going to learn about life? When they're adults, it's too late at that point. They have to learn these things in childhood. And I think there's a maturity to your daughter that comes from the fact that you have this amazing relationship with her.
When she gets to see me work my butt off and she gets to see me, you know, I think you can talk a talk all you want, but if you're not walking a walk, it doesn't mean anything. And so she watches me work my butt off. She watches me, you know, have conversations. She knows that there's things that she will hear that she won't understand, and she'll talk to me about things. But when it comes down to it, my whole goal is to raise a dope human. Like, the reason I had a kid was so that I could put somebody fantastic into the world, you know? And I want her to be self-sufficient and dynamic and driven. And I want her to realize that her consequences, you know, are a reflection of her actions. And I definitely think that she doesn't blame anybody for anything. So that's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, you know, we're in a day and age where everybody's blaming everybody else and you're astounded. It's like, well, do you realize you just did this and that's why that's happened? They don't see cause and effect. I'm really impressed that you taught your daughter you're the cause of the things that are happening in your life.
It's your fault. You did it.
Yeah. That's amazing.
She's cool though, but I have to say, homeschooling is not for me. I'm not meant to be a homeschooling mom.
Well, you don't have time for it.
Well, I also don't like it. I mean, you make time. If something's important to you, you make time.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
But to me, it was truly a struggle for me to do some of the things. I know that we all were kind of thrown into this situation where none of us knew what we were doing. So that being said, we were all in this like unknown, blurry world. But it was hard. It was really, really hard.
Wow. Yeah, I had some friends of mine who were They either took to it like a duck to water, or they were just like, oh, no, 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 I can't do this. Thank goodness they dropped Common Core math. Otherwise, you would have really had your head spinning.
No, they still do it.
Oh, no, 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 no. They need to get rid of that.
They still have it.
Because I hate to tell you, it retrains your kids' brains to look at 15 steps into something when there should only be 4.
I went through all of it, and I feel the same way, but that's still the way they teach it.
Well, they're training their minds so that they can't see a simple problem to be solved right in front of them. They're looking all over the place. That they're retraining the brain.
When they're teaching it how to guess and not to find the system.
Yeah,
it's a lot of guessing.
And the other thing is, I notice the really intelligent kids have trouble with the Common Core because it doesn't make any sense. And the kids who aren't that bright, they pick it up to like a duck to water. So it's like, what's going on here? Who invented this whole thing?
Right, but it's hard because we don't really have a choice, you know? So
yeah,
you have to go through with what they go and do your best on the other side of it. And, you know.
That's not how we do it anymore, Mom. You know, you're like,
right?
What? 2 plus 2 is... 2 plus 2 is 4. I don't need to take 5 minus 1 and then divide. It's 2 plus 2 is 4. I can do that in my head. Hello?
No, I had to do a lot of YouTubing when we did that. Math was definitely a struggle. Zoe struggles in math. She doesn't struggle with anything else, but math is her one struggle. So she starts charter, which is a really good school up here starting in 6th grade. And so I'm excited to see how that spins her into even better.
You can look up a couple of videos on Khan Academy. I think those are pretty good for helping with kids. So let's talk about you running for, what was it, City Council in Coeur d'Alene? I
did last fall.
What was that like? I mean, and you were going up against the incumbent who was in office?
A guy named Dan English. Yeah. And he won. He did great. I only made the decision to run 1 week before I had to declare.
Oh, yeah. So it was sort of last minute.
There wasn't a situation where I've been like plotting this for a long time. I'm an active voter. I have been active with my city for a really long time. And I'm always having conversations with people about what's happening around the city. And I just got upset about the fact that there wasn't a lot of communication. So I have some ideas and I'd like them to go forward. But you know what was really hard for me is I definitely had a fantasy dissolve during this whole process where I thought that things were a lot more structured than they were in the government. And so I learned a lot, but I definitely am not done. I'm not out. And I did really good for my first campaign ever, not knowing what the hell I was doing.
Yeah, I saw some of your videos and you were saying hi and you were connecting to your constituents and you were having a good time. But, you know, I think you're part of the next wave of the new generation that's going to take over and say, hey, you know what? We need things to be changed and shifted. And that's part of what's going on right now.
I think changed and shifted, but I also think there's a lot of core problems, you know. I think they need to pay the people in our city more so that they can be focused on what they're doing. I think it's really hard when you pay anybody who's representing your town, you know, crap money, and then they're over here. It's just a lot of work to put into it, and so they have to have a full-time job over here, and they have to have a side hustle over here. So it just pulls people thinner and thinner, and then you don't get, you know, quality. Well,
in my hometown when I was a kid, the mayor was a part-time job, and I think he got $500 for the year.
Still, our mayor here is a man named Steve Widmeyer, and he's wonderful, but it's a part-time job, but he works at probably 60 hours a week.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. A lot of times they pay people less so they can put the money into the pensions. So that means they would have to start raising taxes. And you've had a population increase over in Coeur d'Alene in the last 5 years. Am I correct?
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what we just had that census. So I'm curious to see, you know, what our actual population is right now. Because I think for a really long time, we're about 50,000. And I mean, it's growing, exponentially. And I see truly a boom that's going to happen after, you know, everyone decides to leave, you know, Seattle or California or things like that. It's a beautiful place to live.
Well, Coeur d'Alene, in case you don't know where it's at, ladies and gentlemen, is 45 minutes away from Spokane, Washington. It's right at the border, and you drive through the woods. It used to be a lumber and coal town, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Logging and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, logging, all that stuff. And Coeur d'Alene was named after the French fur trappers that were there. They were coming down from Canada, I believe. I know a little of my history. And then, but when you get there, it's like, if you've ever watched the TV series Twin Peaks,
Yeah.
it's this wonderful, foresty, incredible place with a big, giant 20-mile long lake. And I had the blessing to get booked as a keynote speaker for an event, like 5-6 years ago, and wound up at the hotel there. And they gave me
Resort, yeah.
What's it called?
The Coeur d'Alene Resort.
The Coeur d'Alene Resort, and they gave me this corner room with a balcony, and the lake is right in front of me with all these boats. I was like, I was just in my element. It was beautiful.
There's a reason why we're a tourist town. You know, it is a beautiful town, and everybody here is very kind and very friendly and very you know, it's just good people.
Well, my limousine driver, we got to talk. And as we're driving for 45 minutes from the airport, she was telling me this was like her third job. Like, she drives limousine in the winter, and then in the summer she's doing something else. And, you know, she has a house over here. And then I went up and I was climbing mountains when I was there. And there's a point at which you see down into the valley, and there's like an island there and all these trees, and you actually get to see like some of the biggest homes, cabins, mansions that you've ever seen in your life.
There's a lot of money in Coeur d'Alene.
There's a lot of money in Coeur d'Alene, and a lot of Hollywood people, actors, actresses, they've bought homes in Coeur d'Alene just to live on that lake. That lake is gorgeous.
Yes. It's fantastic.
What's the name of the lake?
Lake Coeur d'Alene.
Lake Coeur d'Alene. Now the mountain, what's the name of the mountain?
Which one?
Is it the one I climbed? That one that's right by the hotel.
So you guys. So I think so. Next, there's a tiny little hill that's next to the resort called Tubbs Hill.
Tubbs, yeah. I went up Tubbs.
So that's just like a cute little hike. I mean, but we are surrounded by. I mean, we've got Silver Mountain in Kellogg, which is about 30 minutes east of us. We have Schweitzer, which is a great ski resort, which is about
45
minutes north of us. There's Mount Spokane. Like, we're surrounded by mountains and wonderful.
I mean, it's breathtaking. It's breathtaking there. And another of our mutual friend lives there, Jeffrey McLaughlin. He lives in Coeur d'Alene and loves it. Mr. Martial Artist himself. He's been on the show, and he has Professionals at Play. That's his company, but. And hunts, he's an avid deer hunter, and you have just great space up there for people to hunt.
And there's a lot of things that you can do. I mean, I don't hunt. I'm an inside kid. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the girl that you're going to see on a mountain, but I definitely, there's a ton of stuff to do all over the place.
If I dragged you up the mountain, you'd have fun. Trust me.
No, been there, done that. I'm a reformed redneck, so I'm good. I'm good.
That's funny. This is powerful. How do we get a hold of you if we have to connect, or if somebody wants to book an appointment? What do they do?
Smoke signals. Those are the best way to get a hold of me. No, I'd say if anybody. So going forward, I love my business, and I have amazing women that work for me. They're so talented at what they do. But the best way is to. Website is earthlybeautybar.com. Instagram is, you can look me up. I'm Lace of Face, like Ace of Base, but Lace of Face.
Right.
And you can slide right into my DM, and I will direct you to the phone number. But if you call my salon, which is, if you call the salon or you text the salon or any of that kind of stuff, there's all those buttons where you can call or push or whatever to get a hold of us. All you have to do is start that process. And then, if you want to see me, and this is out of love, just be willing to be patient. And I have a wait list, and if you're patient, I would love to see you when I can get you in. But it's going to be an interesting summer.
I have to introduce you to Rachel Pontillo. She was on the show. She does her own skincare line of organic products. Yeah, you two should meet.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I use a skincare product here that's a local, that's all organic and like avocado based, and it's a wonderful product. But I have to tell you, I'm always interested in meeting new people that have stuff like that.
Good. I'll introduce you too.
Hey.
So I like to do a lightning round on the show. You're an entrepreneur, you're businesswoman, you create these amazing things, but let me ask you the first question
Okay.
is, what should people know about you that we may not know about you?
Ooh. I think one big thing that people don't realize about me is that I'm short as hell.
That is true.
No,
Sorry.
but for real, I would say most people that meet me that only see me online or have people that talk about me or things like that in a good way and bad doesn't matter. But I'm just really real and I have a lot of energy. And I think you see like pictures online and I look intimidating. And I'm just a lover. Like I am
Yeah.
just no. There's no ego about me. I don't. I don't. I'm not better than anybody. I won't judge anybody for anything they've ever done. And I just want to be a part of your world. So I
That's
think that that's
awesome.
the one thing that surprises people is that I'm just chill.
Yeah, you are. Let me ask you this. What's your favorite memory?
Giving birth to my daughter.
Wow, that is awesome. And she is a
Yeah,
cutie. She is
yeah,
such a cutie.
yeah.
Smart
That
as a
was that was. I would say that's probably my favorite memory.
smart as a whip.
Yeah, that just again that seems like a million years ago, but again last week too. So
I know. It's amazing. And before I ask you the last question, we have to get into Star Trek a little bit
yeah.
because
Okay.
I grew up with the original series. In 1966, our television broke. We had a black and white console TV, and that was back in the days when you could lay on the TV. 1966. That'll tell you how
Okay.
old I am. So my grandmother, when we got the color TV, my grandfather owned a bar. So he was at night, he was at work. So my grandmother was really great when she babysit me. My mother was a nurse's assistant, so she would be at the hospital. And so as a little kid, I'm sitting there. She was always nice enough to watch stuff that I would like as well. So
Right.
she put on Star Trek when we got a color TV. And when you see color for the first time, you're like in Technicolor, you're like, what am I looking? You're like in a fantasy world. I was hooked from that moment on. And
That's
so
awesome.
I watched Star Trek, the original, but it wasn't until, well, I was growing up in Pennsylvania, so I watched the reruns on Saturdays and in the afternoon. But when I moved to New York City, this was a little piece of comfort. I had to be at work at 8, and if anybody knows me, it's very hard for me to get up early and be at work on time. But I would get home and leave. I would leave at 4:30, and I'd be home by 5:30, quarter till 6. Well, the reruns of Star Trek, the classic show, would start at 6 o'clock. So I'd make dinner really fast, and I'd sit down to watch Star Trek. And I actually became a Trekker from those reruns, watching them and all this. And then when the Next Generation came on, I was like, finally, Star Trek's back on. Yeah. And so you're the generation that started watching the Next Generation, which is
Right.
great. Talk about that. How old were you when you started watching the Next Generation?
I would probably have to say I was between third and fourth grade. And my
Wow.
mom and I would watch it at night, and so it was just that thing that my mom and I would sit and watch. And I don't know what it was, but it was oddly comforting. But also, there was always like a problem being solved or something was going on. And there wasn't like violence or, it was
Yeah.
just, but you could follow the story too. And I mean, so I'm dating a guy who I've fallen madly for. And I have to tell you, he's bald with a beard, and I didn't realize that I have a thing for bald. I mean, I have the biggest crush on Jean-Luc Picard because he's like the epitome of a man, right?
I've met Jean-Luc Picard
I know I'm
in
so
person.
Sir Patrick Stewart. I mean, like he's still my heart. So
Engaged.
I realized. I mean, it was funny. Like I kind of look back and I realized like he was probably like my first crush. You
Wow.
know. So I mean, Earl Grey hot, just a little bit. What I mean? Like I love class mixed with confidence mixed with, and it was just such a cool. I
That's
love the
awesome.
fact that Star Trek had no. Nobody's trying to fight for food. No one's trying to fight for things. It's all about your merit and how you grow. And I feel like when all those resources are provided for you, it turns into actually like your brain and what you
Right.
bring to society. And I love that.
I always loved Star Trek because if the human race got their shit together, this is what we would be doing. We wouldn't be bothering each other. We wouldn't be fighting over nonsense. We wouldn't be whatever. Of course, there would be a black woman on the Enterprise, as a communications officer, a lieutenant. Of course, there would be somebody from Russia and an
Or a
Asian
woman. I mean,
and
there's
a Vulcan.
so many
Yeah.
things ahead of their time.
Oh, yeah. They were so ahead of their time. So for me, Star Trek embodied what I wanted to see in the future. You know, I want to be Captain Kirk sitting in the Starship Enterprise. But I loved, you know, my generation.
Hold on real fast. Did you watch Picard?
Oh yeah, I love Picard.
Okay.
I have to catch up. I'm so bad with Picard.
You haven't finished it?
I have to.
You haven't finished it?
No, not yet. I'm in the middle of it.
You're gonna cry.
I know. I gotta watch it.
Okay, so the fact that you have, I'm gonna call you out. I haven't seen it. I watched it.
You aren't the only one. My business partner
night that came out, and then I watched it all over again. And I'm telling you, like, the closure that it gave me for that whole like series was like life changing.
I love it. Well, I gotta finish up. I need to give my card back. My card carrying. I'm a trekker. But I am so enjoying it. I mean, the plot twists and everything. Jean-Luc Picard, you know,
and he's so. I mean, I think the thing that is crazy to me is he's still so incredible. I mean, like, he's aging beautifully, but he's getting older, and he still did such a good job. You know, he's just a class act.
Well, I always liked Patrick Stewart since he did Dune. I'm a real Dune fan. So
that's a classic. I watched that.
I have the book. I have the book on my shelf right across, you know, on the other side of my office here.
There's a lot of early stars in that movie.
Well, Patrick Stewart played Gurney Halleck in the movie, and I was like, who is that guy? You know, he played him really well. And then when he got the role in Star Trek, I'll give you an idea. I was working freelance at a couple of studios in New York City, and it turned out one of my buddies who did 4-Ox special effects camera work, Dino Garcia, he was a huge Star Trek fan, and we would have Star Trek parties where it would start at noon. We'd go over, and he'd have lunch. He'd have a nosh laid out, and he'd have like 5 or 6 other friends, and we would play Star Trek trivia. We would play our favorite classic episodes, and then we'd shut the hell up by 7 o'clock, and we'd start watching the Next Generation broadcast on Saturday night. So here's the crazy part. Right around 4:30, he would call up the local pizzeria, and he had trained them on what a Star Trek pizza is. Remember William Shatner ordered in Star Trek 4? It was onions, pepperoni, and extra cheese. And a case of Michelob, because Kirk was drinking Michelob, a beer. So he would just call them and go, 4 Star Trek pizzas, please. And they would come a half an hour later. It was hysterical.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And
my mom, I mean, I think there's a few times where we went over and would like go to parties, and it was like a similar type of thing back when I was young. Like, it was we're so spoiled right now with the fact that TV, we can binge. Yeah. Right? And back then, you had to wait once a week.
Right. Oh my God. Back then, I remember when, what was it? Back then, we didn't have VCRs when I was a kid. So when it was on, if you missed it, you were screwed. You didn't see it for 6 months. But here's Star Trek pizza. Large mushroom and pepperoni pizza with extra onions, and then a glass of Michelob. And that's what we would order. Large mushroom and pepperoni pizza.
I used to make that all the time. I worked at Domino's. It was my very first job, and I used to make that all the time, but on a thin crust and no bacon.
Oh, that is amazing. Well, Star Trek, here's the thing, if a lot of people don't know this, but Star Trek taught us logic, diversity, how to get over, our problems in the future. But it was really a morality play about what was going on today in our world. So they addressed everything from Vietnam to racism to interracial love to, topics that people, today might not think that was a big deal, but back then they tried to cancel the show because of these things.
Oh, yeah.
And so if we're not ready to talk to somebody of another race, how are we going to go out and talk to aliens? So Star Trek always made me kind of sit there and go, this is what it's like if we got it together and went out into the galaxy. And
I just think it'd be cool to be able to find that space where we aren't, fighting for resources and fighting for, you know what I mean? I think it'd be cool to just to be able to provide basic necessities for people. I think that would be like, just starting it would be perfect.
We have, and this is getting into headier stuff, but we have a very tiny elite group at the very top. And in America, we have never been taught they exist, but they do. And these aren't the billionaires you see in magazines. These are the people who own countries, okay? They don't wind up in those magazines. And so if we could just get past those people, we could live a better life. And I think Star Trek tried to talk about that because they talked about World War III. They talked about the collapse of the human race. And then when Cochrane invented warp drive and they finally got contacted by the Vulcans, they realized that there was a universe and they were going to be brought into it. And that's what I loved about Star Trek. It was more realistic. You know, it was trying to solve problems. And the great thing about Star Trek I always liked is there was always the ending was always about human beings solving complex problems very quickly, using their own tenacity, their brains, and their ability to get everybody to get along. So in the last 15 minutes of
each other too.
What's that?
And teamwork.
Teamwork, yes. And at the end, you were sitting there. It always had. Sorry to say this. It always had a happy ending. It always had an ending that made you go.
Or a to be continued.
Or always a cliffhanger. But the one thing that I thought, and you have to realize, I watched it from the beginning. So Star Trek always fit into this box, this matrix of how things would work out. And when the Borg came along as a character, I just went, well, John Larroquette as Q
he's my favorite.
Was the first, hello, mon capitaine. John Larroquette playing Q was genius because that disrupted what we knew. And then when the Borg came along,
that was like beyond time and space.
Yeah, that was edgy, a super being, and a god, really. Is what he was. And then the other part of this that was amazing is when the Borg came along, it didn't fit into this nice, neat, we can kill these guys and stop them and threaten them kind of world. This was no emotion, technology. They're just going to roll over you. They don't care what you think.
The collective.
Yes. It's for the greater good of the collective.
So if you were to watch the end of Picard, you'd have more closure.
Okay, all right. Getting on my case here. I'm busy making a show.
If I had time.
You have a daughter. You have an excuse.
I don't sleep enough, Brad. See, okay, so I have to tell you. So, I go to bed at midnight almost every night.
Oh, man.
And I'm up between 4 and 5 every morning.
Wow. So
and that's just like a normal.
How do you not have bags under your eyes? That's amazing.
It's a lot of makeup. Well, and Brad, I'm so Botoxed. Come on now. None of this shit moves.
Doesn't move.
No.
You look great. You look great, by the way.
I appreciate that. I really, really do. I think that I've always been like that. I said my mom says that when I was little, I would run until I just hit a wall and was done. Right?
Yeah, I can see that.
And then I would wake up, and as my eyes were opening, I would be sitting up with them and then run again. So it's just who I am.
I can see that about you. You're like a Energizer bunny. You go until you drop.
And
that's
that
awesome.
Doesn't drink and doesn't, you know what I mean? I just think that when you put good into you and, it's amazing what you can get done when you aren't blurry.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can get done when you're focused and you see that end result. I think the biggest thing that I do with all of my younger clients and my clients that are talking about business and stuff like that is not want people understand the process of reverse engineering, right? If you want to get to here, how do you do that backwards? And I think I play that game a lot in my head on if I want to get here, that means, I started my company and I literally remember laying down at night thinking, how do I make $1,000 a month? Okay. So if I make $250 a week, so $50 a day for 5 days a week, if I can get one client to pay for a facial once a day, I had to figure out that first. And then it doubled and it doubled and it doubled. And it, you know what I mean? It just went from there. But everybody thinks that I got here and I just woke up one morning. And they don't see that it's been 9 years of me waking up at crack of dawn, doing all the work. I had a client today that said, well, you choose your own schedule. And I was like, no, my 300 clients in my life choose my schedule for me, right?
Yeah.
Like, you are all my bosses, and so I will show up when you want me to be here.
Wow.
So I think that it's just that everybody wants to have this in success. I mean, I don't know what success is. I think it's different for everybody, but everyone sees this and they think like, oh, I want what she has. But they're scared to take the risk. They don't want to put the time in, and they think that if they just like open a place, people will come to them. And it takes so many years of working your ass off to finally see the fruits of your labor that there's a ton of people that just give up. Right?
Yeah. And by the way, your salon is beautiful. I mean, it's like a sanctuary. When people walk in there, it's like a sanctuary. And for those of you,
fun. I mean, Brad, like since you've been here last time, I probably have redone the salon at least once because people get bored, I get bored, and if it's the same way for too long, it's not exciting. I mean, I've got hanging flamingos in my retail space, Floyd and Lloyd. You know, I've got big walls, I've got sayings, I've got stuff like that. But I mean, I think at the end of it, you walk into my office and you see like Star Trek cutouts of Jean-Luc Picard and old vintage toys, and you know, it's basically I created a space that I wanted to go to every day.
It's awesome though. What I love is for those of you who are listening and not watching the video, Lacey is sitting in her office upstairs and it's a half circle arc window that overlooks the lake and the Coeur d'Alene Resort and everything there. It's beautiful.
I do have an amazing view.
Yeah, never give that.
I was here before it was cool to be here. You know, 9 years ago there was a ghetto parking lot outside my door, and then this beautiful park existed. And then they did the remodel of McEwen, and by the grace of God, I stayed in business for that whole year with no street, no fourth, no front. I mean, my clients would like shimmy down the side of my building to like get into my door and kept me in business. And I'm the only one still in business that hasn't moved or anything like that in that amount of time. And so I feel like if I could give advice to people who, you know, are in a space where they're feeling, you know what I mean, like you're never, it will evolve.
Right.
And you just got to keep holding on.
You got to keep going because you've had to reinvent your business a couple of times, you know, but I can picture people coming, hey, is this where you get a facial? Is this where you get a facial? You know, it's like going down the you know, where the block is all beat up and everything. And you've been there and they've renovated, they've got, but you know, people think it's sort of
beautiful.
Yeah. We went to that coffee shop on the corner and ordered, you know, that was a blast. We had a lot of fun.
No, they keep me caffeinated, so I love them.
So I promised to catch up on Picard. Did you get into Discovery at all?
No, not yet.
That is, I liked it. I enjoyed it. You'll like it. It's a strong woman character.
Well, it's funny. So I've started. My boyfriend now, he wasn't into, like, he liked Star Trek, but didn't really you know what I mean? He was like, yeah, it's cool. He's more of a Star Wars kind of guy, which I mean, I won't fault him for it, but it's been fun, like rewatching a lot of, like, we started watching through Next Generation and going through all that again. And it was really cool to, like, even for me to like relive all these things. And, and just,
he's getting into it.
He is. He likes it. It's great. He watched all of Picard with me, and he was like, okay, I get it, you know? But then I had to like explain him like the Borg backstory and stuff like that.
Well, people who are into Star Trek, we're into Star Trek. And some people are just sitting there going, you know, they're looking at us like we're in a cult. Well, we are. But it's sort of like, we have this wonderful obsession and love with it that I think is great because I think it's a healthy addiction because
there's a lot of worse things that we could be into.
Oh my goodness. Yes, we are. So I'm going to ask you one last question before we close. What do you want to be known for at the end of this life when you leave this earth?
What do I want? That God is love.
God is love.
Right. And I think that, I mean, at the end of the day, I love Jesus, and he is the reason that I get up every morning. And he is definitely that he's how I've had the strength to get to this place through all of my heartache and everything. And I think that we get really set on the rules and religion. And I think at the end of the day, it's about love and
Yeah.
I think that I would really like them to, when I'm having the parade, because I want a parade, not a funeral. So when like my parade is like going down the street, and I just want them to be like, wow, like she just really loved everyone a lot. Like, and she was that, that light when the world can be very, very dark.
Right. I love it. I thought you would want a Viking funeral where they light a boat on fire.
I gotta tell you, Brad, I got my 23andMe back. I should send you the results. I found out I'm Jewish.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
I found out that I'm, Ibesian.
No, I never would have thought you were a Besian.
I found out that I was, it's on my phone. I can't look because it's right there.
Yeah, you said it. Send it to me. That's amazing.
I'm Egyptian.
Wow, I can see that too. Yeah,
I have like a ton of stuff that I'm like, what is all this? So mostly
you've got a lot. Yeah, I can see your genetic code as you're saying it. I'm looking at your cheekbones and your nose and I'm going, yeah. Oh my goodness,
it's crazy though. It's so cool. And I found out that I don't have any predisposition to weird diseases, which was terrifying to like find. Have you ever done 23andMe?
No.
Okay, you should. It's fantastic.
Okay. I'm afraid they're going to use my DNA for a genetic
You don't
experiment.
think they already have your DNA?
Not mine.
Ha ha ha.
Well, I'm afraid they're going to do experiments on me because my family, we're a little bit different from everybody else. If you notice, I don't look like I'm almost 60. There's a reason. My family just does not, our telomeres don't break down the way everybody else's does.
That's awesome. So, you don't want the world to share in that?
No, that's our unique genetics trait. Hey, they haven't cured baldness in the future, so there's a reason.
I know, right?
They don't have my genetic code.
But I have to tell you, if you ever get a chance, like A, I'm going to laugh at you because they probably already have your DNA. B, if you're the people that think that like they're not tracking you, they already are.
I know they're tracking me,
right? So to me, I think that it was really cool to see the breakdown of everything there was, but it also was cool to figure out like in your DNA, it says, like my DNA says like you most likely have red hair. You most likely have, it kind of goes through even like to like your sensory stuff. And if you smell this or you like the taste of this, and it's so weird because it's so spot on.
Did you actually, there's a great app and you and your boyfriend should get it. It's called The Pattern.
The Pattern, okay?
The Pattern. That is eerily accurate. You put in your birthday and your time of birth and all this other stuff. Oh,
it's like your birth chart.
It's beyond birth chart. It'll tell you when you're going through a cycle.
I go through.
It'll tell you how the two of you should interact with each other, so your compatibility is higher. It's mind blowing to me. Yeah, I have
to tell you, I've done my birth chart. I will do it. I will find it. I will download it. But I've done like my birth chart. I've done all that kind of stuff. And it's so crazy how spot on it is.
That's awesome. I'd love to see that. I want to know what you're mixed up. You're mixed. You always said you were a mutt, but you just were kind of like, you always figured you were from European.
I am, but as you go down, you're like, where's all this from?
Does that country still exist? Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I know.
I know. The Jewish part was funny because my grandmother always said we were Jewish. And we all said, yeah, you're nuts. And she's like, no. And so from Germany, when the war happened, we had family that left, Germany and the Brandenburg Estates and all this stuff. But we all thought she was full of crap.
Right.
And so to see that, it's Ashwakan. I'm saying it wrong, but it's Ashwakan Jewish. And so that alone was just like
awesome.
like cool to see that when your grandmother passed away. I mean, I wish she could see it now. She'd get a kick out of it.
Well, now you can celebrate Shabbos and you can go to temple. And
I'm just saying, we'll do something.
And that also means Zoe is also Jewish.
Well,
so that can open.
I don't know. I wonder if you can do, I don't think 23andMe, you can do it before they're 18. So I'll just wait patiently.
Yeah, but this is awesome. So you can go to the different places that you're from and you can go check it out.
Definitely.
Like I always thought on my Hungarian side of my family that we were Jewish because my grandmother did certain things that the way she cooked, it's definitely like you can only find that at a Jewish deli. And then,
so why don't you do the 23andMe so you can see? Maybe
the men in black are going to show up at my door. But But here, my mom said this years ago because she was trying to do family research. And she said, Bradley, I think we have black genes in our family, because she would find these old photos of my great grandfather, and stuff. And I'm like, okay, Mom, and she's probably right. So
you should really look at it. It's amazing.
Yeah. All right.
That's my
Picard,
shout out. That's
Picard, and 23 and me.
And what was the app I needed?
The pattern. Pick up the pattern.
Okay.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Lacey Moen, please go check her out on Instagram. Lace of Face, just like Ace of Base, Lace of Face, and Earthly Beauty Bar. She's up in Coeur d'Alene. It's worth the trip. You can fly in for the day. There are plenty of shuttles that take you.
As long as you make an appointment.
Yeah, don't just show up. Hey, I flew in. I flew in for the day. Yeah. You can land in Spokane. I think is Spokane. Am I saying it right? Spokane. And you land there, and it's a 45-minute drive to get to where you're at, and then it's totally worth it. Just look at the before and after pictures on Instagram. Your jaw will drop.
You are too kind. You are. No,
I'm serious. I'm a guy who appreciates beauty. So what I love is the fact that you take, and I'm a big fan of women with no makeup too. I'm the same. My ex-wife didn't wear hardly any makeup. So when you take a woman who already looks extraordinary and you turn them into like it's Oscar night, and they're to the hilt, I'm just like, how does she does it? How do you do that? Because it's magic. It really is.
Well, honestly, I'm self-taught. So I think, 15 years of putting square pegs into round holes, I think that you just realize what works and what doesn't work. And the magic to me is in the consultation. I think as long as you and your client are on the same page, you can achieve whatever you want. But until that point, I think that that's the true art of anyone in this field, whether it be skincare, makeup, waxing, hair. I think as long as you can get to a place with your client where you both understand what you're saying, you can create anything.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, reach out to Lacey Moen. Say hi to Zoe for me. And
I will.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Awaken Nation. Lacey, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And I love you. You know that. So thank you for inviting me.
I know you do. I love you too, sweetheart. And ladies and gentlemen, tune in next week. We're going to have another fabulous guest on Awaken Nation. Take care. Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awaken Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success will be because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.